I love to ask questions. In fact, I have as many questions about much of the footage I capture as you probably do. I am fortunate enough to talk and to learn from experts often. That's why this week I'm teaming up with Shark Allies and the Shark Lab at California State University, Long Beach to not only search for white sharks, but to also have a discussion about shark behaviors, technology, and analysis of footage that I've filmed. I am donating all ad revenue from this episode to Shark Allies. Please share and donate to this wonderful nonprofit organization dedicated to the conservation of sharks and rays.
I've got Patrick Rex with the California State University Shark Lab with me today. He studies sharks, specifically human shark encounters. What's the name of your thesis, actually?
So, quantifying human-shark encounter rates and interaction behaviors in Southern California. Say that 5 times fast.
I can't say that 5 times, but that sounds like something really interesting.
Yeah.
And particularly for me and my audience, because I film so many white shark and human encounters here in Southern California, the one thing that I notice is the lack of aggression among the sharks here in Southern California. What you're seeing scientifically, what's that say about the sharks out here?
So, one of the things we have to remember is in Southern California, we're dealing primarily with baby or juvenile sharks. So these range in size from about 4 to 10 feet. So we are seeing a lack of aggression. I've personally never seen any aggressive behavior between a shark and a person in the water. I don't think you have either. And one of the reasons we think that is because if someone's on a board, say a short board around 6-7 feet, that's probably as big or larger than the sharks that are in the area. So for sharks, size is everything. So we think they're using their ability to quickly size up the object to realize that, hey, 1, it's not food. We are not on the food chain whatsoever. And 2, it's as big as me, so it may actually be a threat or just something that I want to keep away from.
Okay.
Because again, with sharks, size is everything, so the larger shark always wins.
One thing that has made Patrick's work, it's basically pretty revolutionary, is because you're actually employing drones. And as a professional drone pilot, I have full admiration for what you do. I see you often out flying, and I'm always wondering what it's like to see the sharks on a scientific level like you do. Yeah. And this is your drone here, right? So Patrick, you've been using these drones. How long have you been doing this?
So I started using drones primarily January of 2019. And we're using the Phantom 4 version 2. And it really has revolutionized shark science. It's being able to use drones to actually see sharks. I know that seems crazy that that's revolutionary, but if you think about it, if we wanted to study shark behavior, we had to be in the water, which meant either scuba or snorkel, which limits where you can go, and it limits your access to actually observing these animals. So you're limited to oxygen supply, you're limited to them actually being in the area. So when we use drones, we can study their behaviors from a much grander scale from one area. So it actually allows us to study their behavior even better, at least those animals that are closer to the surface, like our juvenile white sharks.
Now, you mentioned that there's some machine learning that you're incorporating into this. I don't know how much you can say about it, but...
Yeah, so we're working with teams at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, as well as the Cal State Long Beach Engineering Department. And what they're helping us do is sort through some of that footage. So they're helping me create an algorithm that can go through the footage, identify people, and identify sharks, give us counts, and hopefully in the long term, give us GPS locations of where those people and the sharks are. Not that juvenile white sharks are necessarily dangerous, but in the public's mind, it makes them safer.
And the other element of this, there is an economic element, right? Doing my research, I've learned that some cities definitely have to take into account when to close a beach. That affects a lot of people economically, businesses and things like that. What can you tell me about how you're utilizing what you're seeing to give cities a better understanding as to when they should close a beach?
Right. So we work very closely with the beach safety departments. We've actually come up with some ground rules of when to close the beach. And so what the lifeguards and also the communities are seeing, especially if they're locals in these areas where you have large, prolonged aggregations, is that those sharks are there and they're going to be there for a really long time. And they're going to be in and around surfers, which is what I'm seeing. It's what you're seeing. Right. It's what a lot of people are seeing. And bites aren't increasing in Southern California. So we know that we've got a population of juvenile white sharks in the same area as we have an increasing population of people. There's more people in the water now than there have ever been. And again, bites aren't increasing. So what the lifeguards are kind of seeing is that, you know, just seeing a fin out in the water isn't necessarily a Jaws moment. If anything, these communities are starting to see the beauty of it and the good side of having those animals there, because it means that the ecosystem is rebounding. So it means that having these apex predators, even though they're juveniles, means that the ocean ecosystem is actually coming back.
I've got a collection of encounters I've shared on this channel. Let's sit down and take a look at them and see from your perspective what you're seeing from that scientific level. How about that?
That sounds great.
All right, let's do it.
Perfect.
I want to go over some footage with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
This stuff is just a collection of encounters that I've got. Okay, so here's one.
Yes.
This is one you may have seen before. See, the swimmer in this case has no idea the shark is coming. You see that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this was filmed just right here.
Yeah.
And you can recognize the beach a little bit.
Yep. And that always blows my mind. They'll be right over them and just never see the animal.
How big do you think that shark is?
That shark looks to be about 7.5. It's always very hard to tell, but that's the best way to size it. Just something else. It's a little bit bigger than that swimmer right there. But yeah, so I mean, you can see that the shark is paying no attention to this person. So the person and probably the shark don't know that each other is there.
Really?
I mean, the shark probably hears and feels the splashes, but it looks like it just simply doesn't care. So it looks like the swimmer has seen the shark now and is now adjusting his course, but you can see that the shark never changed its behavior.
In fact, the shark just went the other way.
Right. So what it was doing prior to that swimmer getting into, I guess, the encounter or interaction area, is that shark was kind of just curving around and doing a simple circle. And as that swimmer came in within 20, 30 yards, that shark never changes its natural swimming trajectory and swimming behavior. So I would categorize this as an indifferent interaction. So this shark is not acting aggressive, it's not acting startled or scared, and it's just acting like the person's not even there. So that's what we're calling an indifferent interaction. So again, it looks like it's wheeling around, but this shark is just continuing its same behavior. So it looks like, again, you're gonna see it turn right here, but it's not turning towards the person. And this is why we need to be very careful when you see images online of sharks and people, because that shark, you can see clearly throughout this interaction, it's just circling away from the person, not towards them. But if you see that image of the shark pointed towards the swimmer, news coverage can go crazy over that stuff. And that's something that you've been very good about, showing the entire clip and really giving everyone perspective about what was going on before, during, and after these interactions. And that's what we're looking at here. So the swimmer just had the swim of his life, an amazing natural experience, and the shark is swimming away. It has not been bugged or followed or inconvenienced in any way, and it's just going about its natural behavior, again, from beginning, during,
still
and
doing
after.
That circle. Look at that.
And that's something we see pretty routinely. They seem to go from this patrolling behavior where it's going basically from one end of the beach to the other, basically along the shoreline, and then we see them, for whatever reason, shift into this circling behavior. Wow. So there's a few things we think they might be doing. They might be sleeping and just spinning.
Really?
So again, white sharks are obligate ram ventilators. That means they have to swim to breathe. So even when they're sleeping, they have to be swimming. So that's why we think they might be doing tight circles like that, because they don't want to be, wake up and find themselves miles and miles offshore or somewhere where they don't know. So they stay in a very small, contained place and just basically drift while they sleep.
That might explain why it looks like he's just indifferent to the subject, right?
Right. That's one possible explanation. We don't have data that fully backs that up, but that is, from what I've seen, what I think is going on. Because again, you'll have interactions where a shark will get that close and become startled. It'll speed up, change its trajectory directly away from the person, and then clearly didn't want to be around the person. But what we saw just here is that that shark didn't care at all that person was within feet of that shark.
Anything you can say about the behavior of the human in this?
So I think
I can rewind it real quick. We could take a look at see, here's when the human first notices the shark.
Right.
There's obviously he's startled at first, right?
Yeah,
you can see
absolutely. I think this person did exactly what you should do. He stays calm. He doesn't freak out. He takes time to adjust to the new situation he finds him in, which is feet away from a juvenile great white shark. But he's always keeping his eyes on the animal. And that's the most important thing you can do when you're in the water unprotected like this. Obviously, for the most part, safe, but unprotected. So he's always keeping track of where the shark is in relationship to him. So remember, these are ambush predators. The number one thing they're going to want to do, if they do want to bite, is get behind you. And again, these are juveniles. We're not on the menu. They're not hunting us by any means. But you want to make sure you always know where this large apex predator is at all times. He starts to swim slowly and calmly back to shore. So he is making his way back to shore and removing himself from this situation, but again, calmly. And this is textbook what you should do in this situation. So again, because he did everything right, both him and the shark are unharmed from this encounter.
Interesting. And I filmed this right here. And for context, that was happening about a mile away from me, a mile and a half away. I was at that other point over there. And this was happening here. So in these cases, I can't really warn people. And a lot of people, they want that warning, but it's almost impossible if you're a mile and a half away or a mile.
Absolutely. And that's the trouble we find ourselves in now. So we do know that the population has been increasing. There's more sharks than there have been in the last 20 years. So that's why we're seeing more of them. There's more people in the water, so those encounters are increasing. But what we found in these areas, like in San Diego, where we have all these sharks and all of these people, those encounters are happening every day. So if the lifeguards and if people got out of the water or freaked out or closed the beaches every time an encounter like that happened, no one would go to the beach ever again, because there's always sharks there. Maybe not always, but during the summertime, there's a lot of sharks there. There's high abundance. So the communities are learning to adjust their behavior to these sharks being in the same area. And again, for the most part, that's safe to cohabitate like that. So you can have people and sharks using the same beach locations for prolonged periods of time and not have any increase in shark bites.
Now, this next clip I want to go over with you. This is another clip where you can probably, let's see here, it is, actually, let's look at this. So this is not a human encounter, but this is a Pepsi carton. And look at this little shark here. I don't know if you've seen sharks with debris. I'm sure you have.
Oh, yeah.
This was one of my favorite clips I filmed this year. Look how large this first shark is compared to this other one. But this Pepsi carton, the big shark didn't care about it.
Right.
This little one took a huge interest in this thing. Is that just experience? What's going on here?
Yeah, so it's important to remember that we're dealing with almost baby animals. So there's no parental care for great white sharks at all. So these are all animals that are born and on their own right away. So they have to figure out what everything is in their environment, whether it's prey or not. And that's what this shark looks like it's doing. It's just investigating. So again, it's investigating in a way where it can see, it can smell, it can hear, it can use all of its senses to try to figure out what this is. But that's actually pretty funny. It's very interested. But you can see it's interested, but not aggressive.
Yeah.
And that's what we see sometimes with these smaller sharks with surfers or stand-up paddleboarders. These sharks will kind of do a semicircle around the person and check them out, man, it is still engaged.
Oh, it stayed there for a while.
That's
yeah.
funny. I see them do this with kelp every now and then too. But yeah, this looks like, to me, just a young animal that is exploring its environment and learning about what these things are. And that's what we have to remember these animals are doing to people too.
Right.
So again, what I look for when I look for aggressive behavior is a drastic, erratic movement. So lots of head shakes and a lot of speeding up and a lot of speeding down. So changes in speed, not necessarily a fast speed.
So that clip we just saw with the Pepsi carton, that's intriguing because it kept, like, little one just kept going near it, right?
Right.
So replace that scenario with humans,
Right.
and this is basically what I got here. Now this is basically a much larger shark. I don't know if you've seen this clip yet.
I haven't, no.
And so these kayakers here, I used my drone to actually get down on top of the kayakers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that. There you go. See?
Yeah.
This behavior.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's doing the same thing. But again, just kind of, it looks interested. Like it's gonna turn away and then come back to the kayakers and the stand-up paddler. But you can see it's still a really smooth movement. The tail beats aren't increasing. It's not increasing its speed. And one of the things that we're looking for when we're looking for shark aggression is erratic movement. So it's very smooth, it's very calm, it's moving in generally, although it's turning in kind of one direction at a time. So what you'll see when you see shark either threatened or aggressive behavior is a lot of zigzagging, circling the object and then zigzagging and kind of coming in and out. And that's there to tell you, like, hey, I'm interested in you and you may be prey, or hey, please get out of my area because I feel threatened.
So see how it just turned right under there?
Yeah.
And I'm interested, what about the Pec Fins? See how wide they are? Does that show anything that...
Yeah, so another kind of behavior that sharks exhibit, they flex their Pec Fins down. So that's really kind of to show the broadside, like, hey, look how big I am. And you can see that a little bit. It looks like it might be curving them down a little bit. And that alone, I wouldn't say that that's a defensive behavior right now, because the shark really is milling around. So it, again, because we don't see that erratic swimming behavior, I don't think it's necessarily telling those kayakers and the stand-up paddler, like, hey, leave me alone, I'm about to bite. I would say that that's definitely much more of an investigatory interaction. And as you can see, once the shark's kind of decided that it's gotten enough information, it just goes right back to what it was doing before it encountered the stand-up paddler and the kayaks.
That's the pattern I'm seeing here. You're getting sharks that just investigate and say, hey, you're no threat to me, I'm going to keep doing what I was doing.
Exactly. Well, and it's important to remember that these animals are eating small fish, they're eating stingrays. Most of the time, a lot of those things are on the bottom of the seafloor. So those are benthic animals. They're not hunting at the surface where we are, where we're floating.
Yeah.
So even when they are food motivated, and I think I've seen some of your clips where it's definitely those, what we call oscillatory dives, which is down and up and down and up. And that, I think, is them going down, checking to see if there's any stingrays, and then coming back up to the surface. I've seen some of that on your videos, and they're not doing that around people. Again, they might come in and check out and see what we're doing.
Here's an
but they're
example
not
of that,
interested.
actually. If you can see, their vision's a little... let's see. So this shark here is actually doing that. He's if you can notice here, he's going to actually go... See, he went down, scooped something up into his mouth, it looks like.
Yeah.
But he definitely went down, scooped something up, and then back up.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you just described.
Yeah, exactly. And so that, I think, might be part of the patrolling behavior, is as they're going up and down the coastline, they kind of do those oscillatory dives, looking for prey. So again, that might be one explanation. We don't know for sure yet. But I've definitely seen them do that, where they're at the surface, all of a sudden dive to the bottom and come up with a stingray in their mouth. So that's definitely within the realm of their behavior for sure.
All right. And I got one more clip I want to share with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I named it WTF, the file, because I have no idea what the shark's
Right,
doing. But here's
right.
an example of it. So notice the shark here. He's going to go into this weird shaking behavior. You see his gills.
Oh,
He's expelling
yeah.
something out of his gills. What is that?
So sharks actually have the ability to evert their stomach. So if they accidentally ingest something that they can't digest, or it's getting clogged in their stomach, they can evert their stomach and basically throw up.
Okay.
So that might be what that shark's doing, is just clearing its stomach. And as you can see, some of the debris coming out of the gills. And that shaking movement might just be, again, clearing everything out of the mouth.
Do you see a lot of that?
I actually don't. It's fairly rare. I've seen it before, but it's definitely not an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, that's I've got a whole file of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
They must. I wonder if they just got done eating or something,
Yeah,
or is it
yeah,
just
yeah.
something that happens periodically?
You know, I mean, they're eating stingrays. There might be spines caught in there, or other things that are floating around the ocean. But that, I think, is what's going on. They're just clearing the stomach, basically. Yeah.
All right, let's do some flying.
Yeah, perfect.
So we took to the skies to film more white sharks. It didn't take long to find a few. In fact, one of them was right behind the waves, its fin visible from shore. Seeing a fin from shore as well as the air gives a unique perspective, and it really brought home the point Patrick made to me about how drones have changed the way scientists study sharks. While we didn't film anything extraordinary today, seeing these sharks is always a treat. Whether a citizen scientist like myself is doing it, or the scientists from the Shark Lab, gathering data is always a step in the right direction.
So we just finished. Patrick is bringing the drone in right now. As far as sharks are concerned, it was a perfect day. You saw, what, 8 sharks?
Yeah, eight sharks for sure.
Well, I tell you, I am glad you came to meet with me. I learned so much every time I talk to Dr. Lowe, your colleagues at the Shark Lab. So I'm very thankful for you to be out here. I hope our continued partnership yields some more results and more data for you.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure.
Well, one thing, we are raising funds for Shark Allies with this episode.
Perfect.
All of the ad revenue will be donated to Shark Allies, and we're going to put an active fundraiser up by this episode. Make sure you donate some money to Shark Allies. They are raising funds for awareness to protect these white sharks here in Southern California. Shark Lab, Patrick, Rex, anything to say? Anything?
Southern California is one of the only places that you can actually go out and stand a paddleboard and surf with white sharks. So we need to protect them. They're great for the environment as apex predators. And as long as you use the ocean safely and you're aware of your surroundings, it's okay to share the ocean with them.
And that's what it's about, respecting our neighbors in the water. They live there, and we're just their guests.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, guys.